it works out so nicely that I can do the 80% here in class, and then I do the rest of it on my own and don't bore you with it. But sometimes it will be possible for me to, like one of the class things I do is take a painting and fix it, make it better in the last stages. And also sometimes you guys just need to see how the last 20% is done. But right now it's like the hardest thing, I think, is to actually work the beginning, the composition, the what you're doing and in what order, because that's where everybody gets into trouble. Is they start they'll work too light, they'll put too much white too soon. So I'm trying to find this. This is a pretty good shape, and now I'm looking for the angle here, and using a pretty big brush. Brushes are, sometimes I use big ones. It's not a, I don't have a huge, just whatever works. I just don't want you to use a tiny 2 or a 1. You know, it's just, you need to have at least a 4 or a 6 on, well, it depends on the size of your canvas too. This is a 14 by 18 canvas, hoping that you can see it a little bit better. And so I'm looking for the basic shape value here, not, and then I go into the nuance of it. So I guess I'm thinking, what's my biggest value? What's the biggest value? It goes a little bit more red towards the edge, goes a little bit more green towards the edge, and then I also have a tendency to say, if I use that really light, that same value that's on that brush, if I use a really light touch, I can use that this color right here, that when I touched it over here it got a little darker, but I can use this color to lighten this part. So I'm just also, I look around and say, what I have on my brush, can I use it anywhere else? Just a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. But the nice thing about this block-in is that whatever value I put there is informing. If I can just nuance the color a little bit, I can add a little bit of green, I can add a little bit of blue, I can add a little bit of raw sienna or burnt sienna, and I can say, but the value stays pretty much the same, and I'm just kind of adjusting the color a little bit. So that's why putting the value, the block in to the right value in the first place, and the right shape, is just a real time saver. So if I take the time, a little bit more time than I did, and get these shapes exactly right, then I just kind of go over the top of them and nuance them to be exactly how light or how dark they need to be. So it's just a lot faster way to paint. It looks like crazy confusion at first, but I know that I can put a painting together this way so much faster than I used to be able to, and so I know that it's a good idea to work this way. But now that's going to be too narrow, so I'll have to fix that. So I'll have to, but white goes over the top of, that's why I leave white to the last. But because if you do it too soon, it's hard to put dark on top of white, and the white will get dirty by coming over here where it needs to come over. So I'll probably, again, I'll erase that out and then put the white on. But in some ways you can put white on top of most things, but you have to be really crisp about it. It's the same with watercolor. It's like you can put stuff on top of other things, even light on top of dark. People don't know that in watercolor. As long as you have just the right amount of paint and have just one stroke, you know, you just You just get so you know how to do it with just the right amount of paint, and you don't dig at it. You don't make soup out of it. You just put it on and you're done. That's part of that's the goal. We're trying to get to a place where we make a mark and it stands and it's done, and it's like, boy, that's our best painters. You know, they look at it, they observe it, and they put this perfect stroke on, and it's done. Now, that's how John Singer Sargent used to paint, they say. But there's a story about the backstory to that is he would make this perfect 3 strokes on the wrist of some lady's dress, and it was gorgeous. But the turns out that he put that stroke and then scraped it off more than 60 times. So it's like he'd put it and he didn't like it, and he'd scrape it and he'd put it these 3 perfect strokes, and then he'd do it again. In other words, is sometimes things that look so beautiful and so easy are not done just as easy as they look. You know, it's and that brings up another thing that I have to mention. We always reject about the same number of paintings. I used to save or think that I was doing a pretty good job on about 3 out of 10. I'd do plein air, go outside, and I would say, yeah, I would think maybe I'd get 3 out of 10. And I would think that after all these years of doing this full time and a lot of paintings, I average about 100 a year, about 2 a week, that I frame up and offer for sale. I don't sell that many, but that's how many I get on the wall. And I would think that I would be a lot more successful, but it turns out that I still save about 3 out of 10. In other words, the goalpost just keeps moving up. So the nice thing about art, the frustrating thing, but also the nice thing, is that you never really quite get the whole thing perfected to where, you know, you've got it down. This is going to be a challenge for your whole life. And I love that. I love the fact that I can continue to learn, but the better I get, the more I see that other people, there's that many more people that are better than I am. There's that much more that I have to learn and absorb. The way the atmosphere changes things, the simple brush stroke that is right the first time, and the way that I could use texture and paint, the thickness of the paint to be a beautiful part of things. That's another reason that people like Impressionist paintings, is because the paint itself has a story to tell, the way it's put down and the texture of the brush stroke that can be seen. And so it's just a constant state of learning and exploration and a quest for excellence. I just really love the idea that it just is always going to be a challenge. You can see I'm ignoring these little tiny pieces of things that are in the middle of this passage, just ignoring them because I'll put them in small a little bit later. But I trust that the shape that I'm looking at, they're good shapes, so I'm going to try, you know, I'm not going to be consumed about it, but if I were on my own without a class deadline and people being bored to tears, I would chase every shape until it was perfect. Simple and fresh, and yet as perfect as I can make it. Now I'm thinking in terms of right now that even the snow should be a little bit lighter and brighter as it comes close to us. This is an overcast day, so it's I'm going to have to add a little bit of sometimes a little bit of sunshine to some of the snow, make it look like might be a little bit brighter day, have a little bit more color. I certainly will play with that a little bit. And now as I've done this, then this becomes let's go down to this next big shape. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre. I'm going to add a tiny little bit of yellow, some white, and maybe even a little touch of blue. Yeah, that's a little bit too blue, but I'm going to still go with it because it's when I add it to what's underneath here, it might end up being not that far off sometimes. Because this one I'm actually not layering on top, I'm actually scrubbing because I want some of the color that I have underneath to mix with what I'm doing here. But so I'm seeing if I can find, okay, now that's a little bit too gray, so add a little bit of brighter, a little bit of, so that's my story in my head. Brighter, a little bit, so that means a little yellow. I'm going to probably add a little bit of burnt sienna back in there, but so that's like, this is too yellow, too bright. So now I'm going to add a little bit of kind of a turquoisey green that I have here and see what that does over here. I like that a little bit. And then it goes to the bit of the warm red, the little, I have kind of an Indian red, or not, it's a little bit lighter than, but like an English red. It's not quite as dark as burnt sienna. And then let's see, this can go all the way, and again I ignore those little pock marks in there. I'm just going to do the basic, try to find as close as I can to, this is darker down here, and also I see a little bit greener right in here, greener right there, a little bit greener. So, and then if I look up at this one up there, the next little darker spot looks positively greenish, bluish, light green blue, you know, really quite a nice color. So I'm just, compared to this is blue. Compared to this is more greenish yellow, orange, or no, greenish gold kind of. Compared to this, so that's the idea, is just looking at one and saying, what's, how much different is it? This is going to come down a little bit lower, and it has to be lighter. Okay. And, okay, so, and then this right here, oops, I'm raising this up, and that means that I have to move the snow up. As I'm doing this shape, it's like I'm realizing, oops, I have to bring that up a little bit. So I'll consider whether I'm crazy or not. I'm going to bring this up a little bit more, and I think I'm going to be adjusting that back down. I went too far with that. So let's find my white again. That's good. This is going to be white again, and I'm going to erase this out with a cloth. So that was I lost my place and got it in the wrong place. I'm going to put it back. But see, again, if I'm working in one session, one alla prima session, then I can adjust things back just a little bit lower here. Okay. So let's see if I can bring that back. I want to work on that edge because that's a pretty edge. All of these edges on the silhouette are kind of important. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to definitely make that wider. So that goes a little bit wider through here. it's just easier to erase at this point rather than trying to put a whole bunch of white on top of other things. It's kind of like what I just said about John Singer Sargent scraping off. Right now, it's easier for me to erase than it is to scrape off. Okay, but it's like constantly adjusting for errors, and the more I paint, usually the fewer errors I make. It's like it is less now than it used to be. It used to, but it is just a constant adjustment of mistakes. That brush is too thick and too. I have to get a smaller brush. Okay, but yeah, this is going. Okay, let's go into the tree a little bit more, since I could work on that foreground for way too long. So dark, added a little bit of blue, ultramarine blue, because it seems like this is kind of a cool going into even purpley dark. Goes up, straight up, goes over here, goes straight over, a little bit of a piece in there. That goes right on through, doesn't stop. And then there's a piece.
Can I just ask, when you're putting these colors on now, are you kind of glazing over the undercolors, or are you trying to mix it in with the undercolors?
I'm kind of glazing over. Yeah, I'm adding to the top. And that does vary. If I think that the undercolor will help tone the color to the right, you know, you can mix it in. But most of the time I'm just adjusting it cooler or warmer on top. But it can go either way if you think that can help you. It's like there's no rule one way or the other. It's just whatever works. And so let's see, go across here. Then right now it's like that same color a little bit here, across the top of this, across the top of this. Really light touch. Sometimes it's just a real skiff. I'm just toning over the top, and then this is a big old shape in here. Let's see, right through here, it seems like it's lighter. And again, it's almost like, this is something I do, right, from this little piece that's right in there. Let me change my color so I can show it to you. There's a piece right here, like a little rectangle that's a little narrow, and it has, so it's kind of rounded edges, but it looks like a rectangle to me, right? This space right here. And if I kind of squint, it's almost like there's a connection of lighter right on through here. So I'm going to be cognizant that that's like a light that's almost like, all of this is just, I could see how that could be a connected light. And then this right in here is another big old light shape that kind of connects through here above it. So I'm looking for connections of where there's this dark connects through here. It's like there's nothing in this area that I can see light through, except if I open my eyes. This right here, that's kind of a connected dark. It's like pretty solid dark. So, and I certainly don't see any light in this passage through here. No light, no bright light. It's lighter a couple places, but I can't, if I squint, I don't see anything light. So, that's how that goes. And so then I can kind of tone this a little bit. This should go a little bit redder, and a little bit, lighten that up through there, lighten that up. So it's just a little bit, I'm working pretty thin here. And so And that's something I guess I've decided helps to start thin. It's when I started looking at taking workshops with master painters, it would be sometimes very discouraging because they'd get into this impasto painting right from the get-go, and I'd try to get that to do the same thing after I went home, and it would be just mud mess, just horrible. And I finally realized as a teacher that it's like that's 40 years that they've got of experience and how to put the right thing down in the right place. And I didn't have that experience yet. So if you start out really, really thin, it keeps you from getting in it. You know, I can still erase it out with back to the canvas. I still have options. It's just so much nicer to be able to get out of trouble a little bit quicker. So it's just now just a little bit of an adjustment here. That's that bluish green that I was telling you about that I thought was, and then that's going to be the main thing, and then there's going to be smaller divisions inside of it. This has to be brought in lighter. So this is a big old light shape, and these edges are going to be really some time-consuming work on getting some of those edges to be so pretty, but let's see if I can clean this up a little bit more again. Okay, so now we have this one coming in really light. So sometimes with straw color I'm using a light yellow and quite a bit of white, and funny enough, sometimes a little yellow ochre, but sometimes a little bit of cerulean blue will be in light straw, like cured grass kind of color. I'm always surprised sometimes that some things require a little bit of coolness. I've got to see if I can separate these two shapes out. That one's going to go a little bit higher, and then we have white, and then we have the straw color a little bit lower, so that's going to go in here. So yeah, this is all going to have to take, I'm working from the side, and it's going to take quite a bit more nuance, but let's see, I'll get into a smaller brush at this point and see if I can start working the sky. Now I'm just saying, okay, can't see through this, can't see through this. And I do this with any tree that I'm looking at. It's like, where can I not see through? If you can't see through it, make it a tone. It doesn't have to be a dark tone, but it has to be a tone. Because and then you can put your lights where you can see some stuff through. But if you start with what you can't see through, you'll be it's much safer with the shape of a tree. Just okay, that can't see through that. Can't see through that. Okay, can't see through. This goes this way. And then that ends up clear at the top also. Okay. So now that gives me the form a little bit more. So now I'm going to work with a smaller brush and see if I can't find. Okay, now I'll mix a little bit of that kind of bluish cerulean and white and a little bit of cobalt, and this is where I do have a couple of mixes going, so I can say, make a color match and say, is this going to work? So I'll start with this, and then I'll go with this little piece, and now I start with the biggest shapes that I can see if I can, this is a negative shape, and it's pretty much open right up until there, and it should lighten up a little bit towards the bottom. So I'm going to lighten this shape up a little bit towards the bottom. Now in here we have this going like this, and then on the other side we have this pretty light, and it goes almost straight like that. So I'm looking for my biggest negative shapes that again are pretty open. The smaller shapes that are invaded with different branches, they come a little bit later. So now I'm going to do, this is a pretty good shape right in here, and it comes like that. So this is literally just trying to find some big open shapes in here. And a little bit, let's come down from the top on this one. So this sky comes right on through, and then it goes over, and so that's pretty open. And so see, that gives me that branch right there. It's like what I just did is revealing, and this seems like it's picayune. I just know it works really well, but you do have to kind of, it takes a little patience. Let's see, this is a nice open spot in here, and before I commit, I want to kind of just check it out with what I did here and what I did. There's another open spot right in here, so let's do that one. So it's almost like I keep using the analogy of a jigsaw puzzle. It's a piece next to a piece that next to a piece here, and then a piece in here, and then pretty soon it's like you have an opening right up into the sky. And this is going to come there. And then after I do a little bit of the biggest sky shapes, then I'll start working on the branches again and fix that. So this goes right up into the sky.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So when I'm doing something that's that detailed,
Uh-huh.
I lose track
Yeah.
of where exactly I'm working on and which open space. And do you feel the necessity to have to get everything, or just get the gist of it?
Well, now let me go ahead and do a little bit more on the branches themselves, to kind of, so we have, this is going to be connected, and then that comes up straight on through, and then that comes through. I'm going to start from the top. I often do that because it's easier to get thin by starting at the top, straight line here, and then we have a smaller. So far I'm just using some mineral spirits. I'm not using any medium of any kind. So I have this piece right here, and then it goes like that, and then it comes like that, and then it connects through here. And then this one is also going to have another piece comes here, and that one comes in through here. Okay, so that one has to come right on through here. I went a little blue on that. That's going to end up being a little bit less blue, but that one I felt was a little cooler, a little darker, but probably went a little bit more blue than I wanted it to. I don't know how much of my color you can see. So this one continues through here, and so if I get these, that goes out through the sky. This kind of almost comes through the sky. This comes through, to the sky. This one is a big open spot. Needs to be a little bit more open than I have it even. That's wider than I have. But you can, so it's just, if you think of it as just look for these big facts. It's like if it's open to the sky, then you can put these branches in, and it just all comes together. Let's see. But this is one of the this would be, I've chosen a winter bushy tree, which is probably one of the hardest things that you'll ever probably avoid doing. You don't want to do it really. But I just wanted to show you that they have a structure. It's like this little fuzzy half tone is the shape of what the branches are doing. It's like it's a habit, it's a form. Each brand of tree, each species has a different habit and a different form. But so if you put that form first and then put the branches inside of it, and then work the spaces as well, it's like you can do even the most complicated tree. But you know, summer trees are much easier, but done the same exact way. You start with the shape of the foliage, the shape of the darks, and then you find how you can put in the spaces, the openings, you know, leaving the openings that need to be left, and then put in the sky holes and then the branches at a later time, not at the beginning. That's just really, really, really important. And then some of these, you'll notice now, I'll start to look for, there's a little piece of light on this one, and there's a little piece of light on this one's more like a greenish gold. So if you start putting the lighter ones where they need to be, boy, it just starts to pop, doesn't it? And then, so I keep doing the light, and then a couple of them I'll have to actually put some more, you know, dark back over it, right in here. That one, follow, where are we? We're following this one and going straight up. And so this one has a dark area right in here. And this one goes like that. And then you're actually defining what's remaining by what's behind. Negative shapes are just, they're so cool. It's like, and then I have to just adjust. That has to be a lot bluer up there because it's a little bit higher and it's a little bit bigger, and so we have to adjust for the color. But anyway, and it just goes smaller and smaller until it pretty soon. And you can take it, I mean, you can take it as far as you want. It's like, this is, so that goes this way. In this little spot of gold brown grass right here, there's a little strip here, and then towards the back there's a little fence. And so let me put the little bit of snow that's behind there, tiny little space, and so a little bit more of the goldish color through here. So each piece would be just continue to finish just a little bit more, couple little pieces back here, couple piece back here, and every time that you put in a negative shape, it tells you a little bit more about what's going on. So on we go. But they're right in here, that's too dark. I'm going to go ahead and spread that through because the snow almost goes through. Okay, right through here I'm going to put in that little tiny fence, but again, in such a way that it won't be too more important than it really needs to be. I've got a space right in here too, and a space right in here, and a space right in here, and I have to be careful. Those have to be a little bit less bright, and that's okay. So So the little fence is just a matter of tiny little tick marks that aren't as dark as you would think, because if you squint your eyes you don't see them. They're just a little bit of a, that's too thick. I've got to get a smaller brush. But anyway, let's see. Tiny little brush. Don't have too many. Okay, so when I mess up and get something too thick, then it's usually like clean up from the side or just erase. And that's just all, you know, just to see if you can match the where they are. Don't just start repeating little marks, because that's sometimes when we have one and it looks good, you just keep putting that same mark and it gets regular and repeated, and that sometimes can be a problem. So I'm just gonna see if I can. But that's all that fence is just these little marks. There's another darker one right here. And then visually it'll be the same as what you're seeing. You just want to, if you don't see something when you squint, don't put it in. If you do, you do put it in. But and so each little piece will be just a little bit more, and I'll send this to you all as it is now, and then I'll do some work on it and send you the finish a little bit later.